Oops. Chapter 3. Dana Levinson. The kids around here don't think I see them staring at me, but I do. As I make my way up the front walk to Chokecherry Middle School, heads turn in my direction, and animated conversations break out. I'm used to being the new kid. Dad's work for Wexford Smythe University has brought us to dinosaur digs all over the world, but Chokecherry is different. It isn't so much that it's small, it's isolated. The nearest big city, Denver, is a 4-hour drive. Even Shadbush Crossing, the county seat, it's almost 100 miles away. So the kids in Chokecherry all grew up together, like from the cradle. Where does that leave me? Out in the cold. By the time I show up in the middle of 6th grade, all the friend groups have been set for years. I sort of understand. I don't even mind it that much. But I've lived here for 6 months already. Isn't it time I stopped being such a curiosity? They don't have to love me. I just wish they'd stop looking at me like I was a three-legged coyote that limped in from the mountains. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but it feels like it's even worse today. As I enter the building, they're gathered in small groups, peering at me and whispering. What's going on? The main atrium is more crowded than usual. Mr. Braidmaster, the principal, is urging everyone to move on to their lockers, but nobody's budging. They're all gazing up at they're all gazing up at a gigantic beige tarp that's being duct taped to the wall. Two custodians are perched on the stairs, working furiously behind the billowing sheet with long-handled mops. Rain-stained water is trickling down and puddling on the floor. I blurt, "Is that blood?" Andrew Yee, an 8th grader whose mother works with Dad at the dinosaur dig, takes my arm and starts leading me out of the atrium. Come on, Dana. Nothing to see here. I shake him off. Are they putting up a mural? Nah, he replies. They're just cleaning. At that moment, the duct tape separates from the plaster, and the tarp peels away and drops to the floor. I stare at the wall now that it's revealed. I gawk. I goggle. The lines have been blurred by custodians' mops, but it's very clear what someone had painted up there. As I gaze in shock at the swastika in the atrium, it occurs to me that I've never seen one firsthand before. Oh, sure, in World War II, movies and in books about Nazis and the Holocaust, but not in my school, in a spot where 600 kids walk under it every day. It's uglier up there than it looks on a page on a screen, because it's not a picture or a prop. It's not there to help tell a story or to educate. It's the real thing, painted in anger and hatred. Hundreds of phones appear, and the air fills with the whirring and snapping of pictures. I'm rooted to the spot. Now I understand what all the watching and whispering was about. A swastika is a symbol of hate in general, but it's especially a symbol of anti-Semitism. And everybody knows that I'm the only Jewish kid at Chokecherry Middle School. I've never seen Mr. Braidmast move quite so fast as he does getting over to the fallen tarp and handing it up to the custodians on the stairs. While they try to stick it back on the wall, the principal orders us to our homerooms. Nobody moves. What we've just seen is awful, but for some reason we can't turn our backs on it. Put those phones away, Mr. Braidmast orders, sounding a lot like a Marine drill sergeant, barking commands at new recruits. Clear the atrium! At that point, the bell rings, and we all begin to shuffle off to lockers and homerooms. Behind us, the tarp hits the floor again, and I catch one more glimpse of it as I round the corner. You okay? Andrew asks anxiously. Why wouldn't I be? I snap. And I am okay, I tell myself. Why should I get upset just because some wing nut put a swastika on the wall? I've been alive for 13 years. It's not like this is the only bad thing I've ever seen. And this isn't Nazi Germany just because somebody painted a Nazi symbol. I scan the faces in the hall. Most kids are talking a mile a minute about what we've just witnessed. One thing about a small town like Chokecherry, nothing ever happens. So when it does, it's big news. A few people look kind of solemn and tight-lipped, but most have their phones out and are comparing swastika pictures. A few have even taken selfies with the awful thing in the background. Probably by the end of the homeroom, Instagram will be flooded with the postings. Me with swastika. Cute. Not cute. Actually, deeply disturbing. Okay, maybe I'm a little more rattled than I'm willing to admit. Because that swastika means that there could be someone in the school who hates me, not dislikes me, or finds me annoying. A swastika could send you directly to the H word. Do not pass, go, do not collect 200. I've gotten strange looks in the past. A handful of intensive mean comments, but not hate. Nothing like that. The swastika is bad enough, but the thought of some shadowy person actually drawing one is worse. Why would anybody do that? It's probably just a sick joke. But what if there's more to it than that? If this question sends a chill up my spine, it seems to thrill a lot of my classmates. I can't believe that so many of them think this is a fun thing to spice up a boring school week. Like the time the bus broke down and they had to call the giant tow truck. Excited speculation buzzes through the halls. Who did it and why? Is there a racist in their school? A neo-Nazi? Is it serious or just somebody trying to pull our chains? Is a student behind it or did some adult sneak into our school with a can of red spray paint? I hear it was Michael Amorosa, Pamela Bynes was saying, not far away from me. Mr. Kennedy caught him in the act. That's crazy, Jordy Duras scoffs. Why would Michael paint a swastika? He didn't, Gordon Lund replies. He's just the guy who found it. He got so freaked out, he dropped his phone and it broke. Maybe it was Mr. Kennedy, Pamela suggests. He's always in our school. Mr. Kennedy's worked here forever, Jordy points out. If he was a Nazi, we'd know by now. Notice how I rattle off all their names? I doubt that many people in this school know Andrew and me. We're the scientists' kids, and I've heard us called egglets. Children of the eggheads. It's not an insult, or at least I don't think the locals mean it to be. It's just the way things are around here. It's a reminder that race and religion aren't the only things that can make you an outsider. Andrew stays with me all the way to my homeroom, like I'm made of delicate crystal or something. I always thought he wasn't as sensitive as I am to our outsider status, but I might be wrong about that. Or maybe I look worse than I realize. Don't freak out, he tells me at the doorway to the class. It's going to blow over, I promise. Thanks. But when I walk into Mr. Slobodkin's homeroom, every single eye is laser focused on me. I wonder how Andrew can make a promise like that. If the kids are all staring at me, Mr. Slobodkin is doing the exact opposite. His effort to look anywhere else but in my direction is giving him a crick in the neck. How am I going to survive this homeroom without losing my mind? The answer to that comes via the PA. All classes are to meet in the auditorium in 10 minutes for an important assembly. I have a sneaking suspicion that this doesn't mean a surprise performance by a traveling troupe of jugglers. I've always wondered what a sinking heart feels like. Now I know. Our auditorium seats 540. Since there are over 600 students in the school, the overflow has to sit on the folding chairs in the orchestra pit. I'm praying for the last row of the balcony. No such luck. Mr. Slopkin is the oldest, slowest teacher in the whole school. By the time we get down there, the only open spots are right in front of the stage. I couldn't be more on display, or at least that's how it feels. In the 6 months since we moved to Chokecherry, I've seen Principal Braidmess furious, elated, stern, excited, and even emotional. But this is a new one. He looks like he's been dragged backwards through a hedge. His face is bright red. His hair is standing on end, and his expression is more stunned than anything else. He surveys the crowd, and maybe it's just me, but his eyes linger on the Jewish girl in the front row. Many of you know that our school was the target of an act of hateful vandalism last night. A white supremacist symbol was painted on the wall of our atrium. Let me stress that we know very little about this incident right now. We don't know who did it, and we don't know what that individual's motive might have been. But I felt it was important for us to get together as a school community and clear the air before the rumors get out of hand. You'd think we were in an empty room. That's how silent it is. People might tell you, the principal goes on, that the swastika on our wall is an ancient symbol, a kind of cross that has had many meanings over the centuries. Don't believe it. Today, the swastika has only one meaning: pure hatred. Most notoriously, it is the symbol of Nazi Germany, an evil regime that killed millions. It screams not anti-Semitism, but every other kind of racism and intolerance. It is an attack not just on our minority students, but against every single one of us, and it's 100% unacceptable. A smattering of applause greets us. I don't join in. It's like my hands are made of lead. Seated next to me, Eli Vardy offers up a high five that I just stare at. What's that for? I ask him. Is this great news for you? He demands. How do you figure that? Braid mass is anti-swastika, he explains. And you're... I play clueless. From Massachusetts? Our custodians are in the process of removing that repulsive symbol from our atrium, Mr. Braidmask goes on. We won't have to look at it anymore. But that doesn't mean it will be gone. A swastika may be a painted picture, but it's also an idea that survives, spreading its poison long after the symbol has been erased. But there's an antidote to poison, and that antidote is information. I'll be speaking with the school board, the teachers, and the parents. We will combat this with a tolerance education project that will involve every single student and classroom. Where there's darkness, we will shine a light. The principal kind of slumps for a moment, almost like it took everything he had to make it this far. Then he says, I'm sorry we had to go through this, but I hope we'll be stronger as a community when we come out the other side. And he walks off the stage, shoulders sagged. This time the teachers applaud, and maybe a few kids. Even me, I find my hands at last. But for the most part, the 600 plus are pretty cowed. Not many of the students at Chokeshire Middle School are big Braid Mess fans. But when you see your principal so obviously shaken, it makes you think that maybe you should be more upset than you really are. The next time I pass the atrium on the way to lunch, the wall has been repainted. You've never seen so many kids staring at a blank wall. The swastika is gone, but it isn't.